I believe that we are seeing a generational shift
hmm
on what people want out of work.
Welcome to Shift Talk, where we talk about the workforce challenges and trends that manufacturers and those in the supply chain industry are facing every day. I'm your host, Adam Raymond, and in each episode, we'll bring you fun and in-depth conversations with industry experts and thought leaders who are on the front lines of frontline work.
Hi, Adam. Bill Good here, GE Appliances. I am Vice President of Supply Chain. Have been in this role at GE Appliances for 8 years and coming up on my 39th year in manufacturing.
You started when you were 12.
Yes, exactly.
I'm glad to have you on with us today. It's great timing because you and I just attended a workforce summit with the Manufacturing Institute in Atlanta, which was great because there was a lot of manufacturers there all trying to figure out the same things, right? And they had you as a keynote on a panel and really appreciated, you sharing what you're doing at GE Appliances and hearing what other manufacturers are doing to try to make manufacturing attractive again. What are some of the challenges you're facing and really tackling?
I will say that we started seeing prior to the pandemic a bit of an exit of our baby boomers and Gen Xers. But what we found is those remaining baby boomers and a high number of Gen X population that were in manufacturing during the pandemic
Mhm.
really chose to go ahead and leave the workforce and retire. So it created almost an acceleration of retirements of that population. So you saw a almost a very fast transition into a different population, almost a different mindset of manufacturing associate post-pandemic than what you saw pre-pandemic. It
Mhm.
was back in 2018, 2019, we could open up a requisition and we would have to close the requisition in a short period of time because we'd have thousands of applicants. And now we can just about leave an ongoing application process and leave the website up and take applications ongoing because um, there's just a lot less associates looking for this line of work, period. And we also have seen a bit of a transition on the expectations of work. So the way I would describe it is when you go back to manufacturing post-World War, that population of worker, that baby boomer, seemed to be focused on anything they could do to get ahead. If there were
Right.
overtime opportunities, they were all about their mindset was, how do I get ahead and advance my family? And what we're seeing from this population is somewhat of a different mindset. They want a more balanced life, if you will, a more balance between how much I work and and how much personal life that I'm able to engage in,
Right.
along with having an expectation of pay. And then how they're treated, the culture, and the actual type of work is very different than 5 years ago, even,
Right.
is what we're finding.
Yeah. What are the things that you're seeing the newer generations care about, even sometimes over and above pay rates?
So one area that I would say is the environment that they choose to work in is much different. Factories, especially some of the older factories in the US,
hmm
many of them do not have a controlled environment as far as the air conditioning and things like this. They have a higher expectation of what the place that they go to work looks like, feels like, daily. They're
Mhm.
also not necessarily looking for overtime. They don't 5 or 6 days. If they can work 3 or 4 days, I'd rather work 3 to 4 days. They're looking for a lot more flexibility than in the past. You figure that this population, post World War II, 1 out of 3 jobs was a manufacturing job. Today, less than 10% of the jobs are manufacturing jobs, and they're not, on top of mind for a graduating senior from high school. They are just overwhelmed with brands in their community. Everything from Starbucks to
Mhm.
Chick-fil-A to Walmart, Amazon, Apple. It, the population that goes to college, or at least attend college for at least 1 year, most states, 65% of graduating seniors at least attempt college. So that population that is left, they go to retail, they go to food services, and the manufacturing brand is not at top of their mind, which is a challenge for us for sure.
Yeah, that I was just going to mention that as a brand, manufacturing is still seen by younger generations as, oh, that's difficult, physically intensive, dirty, unclimate controlled. And that's not always necessarily the case anymore. Now, yes, as you said,
No.
there are facilities that aren't climate controlled, but just looking at what you've done at the Roper plant with all of the robotics and automation, I've got to imagine those are the types of things that are going to get younger generations excited, right? The opportunity to work with technology, to upskill, to have a career path, right? That's what a lot of them talk about.
That's a good point, Adam. I think that the part that they're missing, that we need to get the message out, do a better job with our branding, is that the career paths and career opportunities in manufacturing virtually exceed anything they're going to find in food services or retail. The sky's the limit in opportunities. And what they're also probably not understanding is just sheer compensation and benefits still far exceeds what they can find, in their local communities in food services and in retail. So we just have a challenge ahead of ourselves to help them understand the opportunities and specifically the career paths. If you look at even my own story and Luther's story, our plant
Mhm.
manager at Roper, we both started as hourly associates, and now I made it to a summit of a manufacturing person's career at GE Appliances, and Luther's the same way. He's a plant manager and started out as an hourly associate years ago.
Yes, I think they see the entry level pay rate and they compare that to what they can make at Chick-fil-A or at Amazon. And what they don't realize is in manufacturing, even without the commitment and expense nowadays of a 4-year degree, they can go in and in just a few short years be trained in areas where they can be making 20, 30, $40 an hour.
That's right.
I think manufacturing has this great opportunity for those younger workers who are saying, I need to start earning income now. It needs to be enough to support my family. I really want to have benefits. And what we see, especially when it comes to flexibility, they do start off with, well, for right now, I can get away with working 28, 36 hours a week. I can support myself on that. But once I want to buy a house, once I start a family, now the opportunity is I can work full time. I can have overtime and have great full benefits in ways that other industries that you mentioned, fast food and retail, are never going to offer them.
That's right. Even my own circumstances, as well as Luther, most manufacturing companies offer education reimbursement. And I would
Right.
say over half of my college education was paid for by the companies I worked for, as well as a balance of my bachelor's degree, two master's degrees. And Luther is the same situation. Look, you can have a great career without going back and getting any college education whatsoever. We have skilled trades associates that make $30, $40 an hour and well compensated. We have controlman jobs. We have quality technician jobs. There's just all kinds of opportunities in manufacturing. You can really set yourself up to make as much as you want to make in manufacturing once you're in and get your foot in the door.
But that's really the trick, right? That's what we've found is, unfortunately, if you tell a Gen Z new employee, hey, this is your opportunity, you can work here for 30 years and you'll reach this place, that almost sends them running out of the front door screaming. But what we find is if you sneak it up on them, right?
Yes.
And you go, look, this is a great opportunity to make great money, learn some incredible skills that you can't learn someplace else. Then they start going, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. This isn't like being a coal miner, right? Like
That's right.
manufacturing in 2023 looks very different. What are some of the programs that you've helped institute and G Appliances have instituted across the country to help get these newer generations in the door?
We've really had to get creative, Adam. What we say is you have to make the work fit the person versus the person fit the work. So we really started challenging every paradigm that has been around. G Appliances is a century-old company that dates all the way back to Thomas Edison. And many of the ways that we're recruiting and the jobs and the expectations of an associate have been handed down from one generation to
Right.
another. And in the past, the way we looked at it is, look, we have a manufacturing job. You're probably going to start out as an assembly operator. You're going to work 40 hours a week, shift work, first, second, or third, and probably going to work some overtime. So you should expect to work 50, 60 hours a week in some cases. So we started just challenging all of the paradigms associated with that kind of line of thinking. Why are people either not coming to manufacturing, and what types of programs could we put in to solve problems with why people don't want to work in manufacturing? A few of those. The first one we put in was basically a 2-day-a-week program. We started out, it's called GEA 2-day. The highest percentage of absenteeism, both planned and unplanned, a lot of those vacation, are Fridays and Mondays. Let's say a manufacturing plant has 1,500 associates in it. On those, when you peak out on absenteeism, that can be anywhere from 150, 200 associates that you're missing in the plant during those days. So we started out at GEA today, and that was a part-time workforce. Initially, we targeted college students. So we said, we're going to pay them a little different, offer them a different level of benefits. We're going to offer them $6,000 a year in tuition reimbursement. And then we'll go and see how attractive that is. And it was, to our surprise, it was wildly attractive. Not only though, what the surprise came, that it wasn't attractive not only for college students, but for stay-at-home parents and such that just wanted 2 days of work. And people just came out of the woodworks and wanted that 2-day a week opportunity. In fact, it was so popular, we came back and offered a 3-day option, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we peaked out to around 400 associates that are part-time here in Louisville, Kentucky. Another program at Roper specifically is MyWorkChoice. And MyWorkChoice admittedly, I was probably a bit of a cynic when we started, in that it was um, where an associate through MyWorkChoice could sign up for their own schedule. You would sign up for at least one shift a week. And what we find is there's a unique population we've been able to attract. We get a lot of folks who are retirees and all kinds of different population that we've been able to attract to this type of work. And again, as I mentioned, I was a little skeptical originally when it was presented to me. Having run assembly lines in the past in my career, I thought that the turbulence was going to be too great, too many people coming in and departing and never having the same folks. I was worried about training.
Right.
But to my surprise, it has been wildly successful at Roper, and it just was served as a reminder to me that this population of associate, they like to be able to control their schedule versus the company controlling their schedule. We also, another program has been a partnership with Lyft, and one of the top reasons why people turn over is not having reliable transportation. We decided that let's see what we could do to help solve that issue. And so we supplement their rides up to $100 a month. And we have well over 1,000 associates signed up for that, and 400 or 500 associates, I believe, use it regularly, and a number of those actually max out their allotment each month. And then another program is just us targeting immigrants for our manufacturing opportunities. We were under-indexed in that population, felt like we did not have a good pathway. We were not targeting this population, and we've worked hard to work with Catholic Charities here in Louisville, Kentucky, and other various populations and churches in the communities and so forth that had access to this population to get those into our manufacturing plants.
I think the biggest thing we hear is, you touched on it, but you made it sound easy, which is changing the mindset of how you view how work gets done, right? Change is hard. And it's always easier to look back and say, oh, this program's worked great. This program's worked great. But I know behind the scenes, it never goes that smoothly, even for yourself, admittedly, right? Like, there's some of these programs that you look at and you go, I don't know if this is going to work for manufacturing. How do you, convince yourself that, okay, we've got to try something different? And then how do you get the buy-in from not just leadership, but even at the line level supervisor to say, okay, I know this is how we've been doing it for 100 years, but we're going to try something new. What did you do to get people bought into the idea of just changing their perception to meet the workforce?
It's a great question. One of the things that I'm proud of at GE Appliance is we've been able, being inventors, innovators, we've been able to carry that fabric from Thomas Edison throughout the generations. And so we always look at how can we lead and be innovators, no matter if it's a product, a process, or just the way we look at things. So I'm very proud to be part of a company that really, that's our heritage. What I would say is that we knew that we could not play victim. We have invested $2 billion in our plants in products over the last 6 or 7 years here. And that's created a need At one point, we were actually the fastest growing appliance manufacturer in the US, and we grew 4,000 jobs during that period. So we knew that we had to look at things differently if we were going to be able to recruit for those roles, because we were needing those roles at the height of the most challenging environment that I've seen in my manufacturing career. So we said, we need to do things differently. And I think success with one program was just really helps you open up your mind, and then you try something else and it's successful. So I think that it all just kept building upon itself. When I said I was cynical about my work choice, I think a big reason for that is a number of times across my manufacturing career, I've attempted to use a part-time workforce in manufacturing,
Right.
and it's failed almost every single time and had minor success at best. Today, that has been completely different. This population is looking for something that is more flexible with their time, and we're making it work. So I think we had to just show the successes to that frontline leader, and it opened up their minds to what different looks like. Because honestly, I don't think we'll ever go back. I think this is a new normal.
I was going to
I
ask you that. We
yeah,
still hear people holding on to, maybe now that we're past COVID, we're going to get that 50-hour-a-week dedicated worker coming back through the door. I don't see it in the people we speak to as far as the workforce itself.
no, I don't see it either. I see it much different than that. I believe that we are seeing a generational shift
Mm-hmm.
on what people want out of work, out of their personal life and out of work, which is something else that, as manufacturers, the other piece of the equation has been in the past how difficult manufacturing work was viewed. So I think that manufacturers, most manufacturers have focused on how do you make the jobs easier. And so a lot of automation is taking place. You've got everything from your heavy duty 6-axis robots to now cobots that
Mm-hmm.
are doing the more difficult, dirty, and challenging roles, so that the roles that these hourly associates are coming into are a lot easier and less physically demanding than they were just 5 years ago. So that's also helped.
No, that makes a huge difference. And to your point, it's interesting dynamic of they want to make enough money to pay their bills, support themselves. And for a good portion, that's all I need. I don't need extra money this weekend, so I don't need to work overtime. But next weekend, I want to do this trip, or I need a car payment. I want as many hours as you can give me.
Right.
And even in what we tend to refer to as the core workforce, when we look at the data, even their numbers, even when they have overtime mixed into their schedule, they're still only averaging 32, maybe 34 hours a week. They're taking that time whether we like it or not.
Yes.
And we finally have to address, okay, 100 workers doesn't equate to 4,000 hours anymore, right? It
Right.
really equates to 3,000. So now what are we going to do with that 1,000 hours we need to produce the same number of appliances?
Mm.
And thankfully, we have got technology now that can make it so it's not an operational nightmare, to your point, right? So I really appreciate hearing how GE Appliances has addressed that, not just in the schedules, but in the environment as well. Investing in technology, investing in upskilling, investing in their people, because that's what they care about today.
That's right.
This has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. It's been my pleasure. Look, this is an area that us as manufacturers will shape up to be the biggest challenge that we'll face over the next decade.
Mm.
And those that have a creative, innovative approach to how to hire and retain associates will win. And those that continue with the same mindset, they'll struggle. I think that we've only scratched the surface. We know that there's a lot more opportunity for us. There's issues that people struggle with around childcare and other issues that we intend to address head on over the next few years here to continue to put the employee at the center of our universe and focus on that person, the whole employee value proposition holistically, and to be a better employer going forward. So thank you for your time and invite today, Adam. And certainly, again, it was my pleasure.